The snowstorm was unforgiving. Sheets of ice-swept wind tore through an empty street. And right there, in the middle of it all, stood a barefoot boy, no older than 10, trembling in the blizzard, alone. Suddenly, bark! A sharp growl cuts through the storm as a powerful German shepherd lunges into frame. Eyes locked, body tensed. What if the only thing standing between you and freezing to death was a dog? Police lights flash. A uniformed officer scoops the child into his arms. The K-9 gently nudges the boy's frostbitten fingers. Stay till the end to see how this heroic K-9 rewrote the fate of a boy who had no name, no shoes, and no reason to hope. What happened next will stay with you forever. Before we begin, just one question. Have you ever seen a child hug a dog and know in that moment they saved each other? This story will touch your soul. But before it begins, we want to hear from you. Tell us in the comments, what country are you watching from? And after watching, let us know, how did this story make you feel? Was it the dog's bravery, the boy's quiet strength, or maybe the hug that changed everything? Hit subscribe if you believe every life deserves a second chance, and share this with someone who still believes that heroes come in all shapes, and sometimes with 4 legs and a heartbeat. Alright, ready? Because this isn't just a story, it's a journey that may just change how you see love, loyalty, and what it really means to be rescued. The snow had teeth that night. Wind howled down the frozen streets like a wounded animal. The kind of cold that doesn't just sting, it bites. Street lamps flickered above black ice, casting shaky halos over a city already gone to sleep. Officer Daniel tightened his grip on the steering wheel. In the back seat, his K-9 partner Rex sat tall and alert, his ears twitching with every gust of wind. Most nights, this stretch of Millbrook went quiet by 10, but tonight, just past midnight, the radio crackled. Unit 12, we've got a possible figure near Millbrook Bridge. No movement. Might be an animal. Might be something else. Daniel's eyes narrowed. He glanced at Rex in the rearview mirror. The dog didn't flinch, didn't blink, just stared out into the storm like he knew it was coming. A few minutes later, their cruiser crept toward the bridge. Snow smacked the windshield like tiny fists, and then, brake lights, a shadow, not moving. Daniel hit the brakes. The headlights lit up a lump beside the guardrail. No shape to it at first, but then the snow shifted. A hand, a knee, a boy. He was curled up, motionless, barefoot in the snow. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. In the back, Rex let out a low growl. But then, it shifted. The growl turned into something softer, a whine, almost like grief. That's when Daniel knew. This wasn't a kid playing in the snow. This was a life hanging by a thread. Daniel flung the door open and bolted into the storm. His boots crunched over ice as he knelt beside the boy. The child didn't flinch, didn't shiver. He just stared forward, skin pale, lips tinged blue. Hey, buddy," Daniel whispered, pulling off his coat and wrapping it around the boy's shoulders. "Are you hurt? Can you talk to me?" No answer. Just a faint breath like fog from a dying fire, and then movement, not from the boy, but his eyes. They flicked past Daniel's shoulder. To Rex, the boy's lips parted. His voice was barely a thread. "Can I hug him?" Daniel blinked. For a second, the wind even seemed to pause. Rex was already moving. Trained, disciplined, but this was something else. He stepped out of the cruiser, walked right up to the boy, and gently lowered his body beside him. The boy reached out with trembling arms and wrapped them around Rex's thick neck. That's when the tears came. Not from the boy. From Daniel. He'd seen pain before. He'd seen bruises and break-ins, drunks and overdoses. But this, a child who didn't beg, didn't cry. Just asked for the warmth of a dog. It cut deeper than anything. Daniel scooped the boy into his arms. He was light, far too light. A child who'd been without food for days, maybe longer. Rex stayed close, nuzzling the boy's hand as they made their way back to the cruiser. Inside the car, Daniel cranked the heat. He glanced in the mirror. The boy was still clinging to Rex, face buried in the K-9's fur. Safe. For now. At the hospital, doctors rushed in. Hypothermia, malnourishment, frostbite along his toes. But he was alive. When they asked his name, the boy hesitated, then whispered, "Leo." No last name, no ID, No one had reported him missing. A social worker leaned in. "Do you know where you live, sweetheart?" Leo shook his head. Daniel stayed by his side as long as he could. When he finally stood to leave, Leo grabbed his hand. Can Rex stay?" Daniel smiled. "He'll be back, I promise." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept hearing Leo's voice in the storm, that quiet whisper, that plea for connection. Who leaves a child out in a snowstorm, and why wasn't anyone looking for him? By morning, Daniel was back at the hospital, this time with Rex. Leo's face lit up the moment they walked in. He didn't say much, just hugged the dog and smiled, and Rex leaned into him like they'd always belonged together. Daniel started asking around. Schools, shelters, nothing. It was like Leo had fallen out of the sky, but dogs don't forget. One day, as they drove past an old warehouse district, Rex started barking. Loud. Urgent. Daniel turned the car around. The warehouse looked abandoned, but something about the way Rex circled the gate, nose to the ground, tail stiff, sent a chill through Daniel. They found footprints, small ones, leading behind the building, and inside, a blanket, a tin can, scraps of food. Someone had been living there, recently, and on the wall, crudely drawn in chalk, was the outline of a dog, big ears, a badge on the collar, Rex. Leo had been here, alone, for weeks, maybe months. Daniel returned to the hospital and showed Leo the sketch. The boy's eyes welled with tears. "That was my friend," he said. "I didn't know he was real." Daniel knelt beside him. "He's real, and he's not leaving you." As days passed, Leo slowly opened up. He'd run away from someone, a man with a van. Said he'd been with other kids, said he escaped when the door jammed. Daniel's stomach turned. This wasn't just a rescue story anymore. This was something darker, something bigger. But right now, one thing mattered more than anything. Leo was alive, and Rex. Rex had done more than find a boy in the snow. He'd found a soul worth saving. The snow was still falling outside the station when the boy finally let go of Rex. His small hands trembled, not from the cold anymore, but something deeper, something that clung to him like frostbite on the inside. Daniel crouched beside him, holding a steaming mug of cocoa, hoping the warmth would coax him to speak. But the boy just stared down, whispering again. "I didn't mean to run. I just wanted Sammy to be okay." That name again, Sammy. Daniel's mind immediately locked onto it. Was it a friend, a brother, a dog? He didn't know. But the way the boy said it, full of guilt and urgency, made it clear Sammy mattered. A lot. The boy wouldn't say his name, no matter how gently Daniel asked. So for now, they called him Kid. But Rex seemed to know something. He never left the boy's side, tail low, head resting on his lap like a weighted blanket of calm. And the boy? He finally closed his eyes. That night, Daniel sat alone in the dark office, a cup of stale coffee in hand. His gut wouldn't let him sleep. Something about the boy, the way he flinched at sudden sounds, the way his eyes darted toward exits. This wasn't just a lost child. This was someone running from something. Or someone. He opened his laptop, pulling up local reports. Missing kids, recent arrests, shelters in the area. After scrolling for what felt like hours, a name caught his attention. Leo. Leo Harper. A missing person report, 6 months old. Disappeared from a children's shelter just outside city limits. No foster home placement, no updates, no public alerts. Just gone. The file was thin, too thin. But the photo, Daniel leaned closer. It was him. The same deep, tired eyes, the same scar on the eyebrow. The boy asleep on a bench with his arms around Rex had vanished half a year ago, and no one had noticed. He dug deeper, piecing together what he could. The shelter, Greystone Home for Boys, had quietly closed 3 months after Leo disappeared. The official reason? Budget issues. But no formal closure paperwork, and no reports of the other boys being relocated. It was like the building, and the kids inside, had been erased. Daniel's skin prickled. He checked archived employee rosters. One name kept reappearing in incident reports and internal complaints. Marvin Brooks, former shelter manager, a man with no criminal record, but dozens of accusations that never stuck. Most complaints had mysteriously been dropped, dismissed, or lost in transition. It didn't sit right. That night, Daniel sat alone in the dark office, a cup of stale coffee in hand. His gut wouldn't let him sleep. Something about the boy, the way he flinched at sudden sounds, the way his eyes darted toward exits. This wasn't just a lost child. This was someone running from something. Or someone. He opened his laptop, pulling up local reports. Missing kids, recent arrests, shelters in the area. After scrolling for what felt like hours, a name caught his attention. Leo Harper. A missing person report, 6 months old. Disappeared from a children's shelter just outside city limits. No foster home placement, no updates, no public alerts. Just gone. The file was thin, too thin. But the photo, Daniel leaned closer. It was him. The same deep, tired eyes, the same scar on the eyebrow. The boy asleep on a bench with his arms around Rex had vanished half a year ago, and no one had noticed. He dug deeper, piecing together what he could. The shelter, Greystone Home for Boys, had quietly closed 3 months after Leo disappeared. The official reason? Budget issues. But no formal closure paperwork, and no reports of the other boys being relocated. It was like the building, and the kids inside, had been erased. Daniel's skin prickled. He checked archived employee rosters. One name kept reappearing in incident reports and internal complaints. Marvin Brooks, former shelter manager, a man with no criminal record, but dozens of accusations that never stuck. Most complaints had mysteriously been dropped, dismissed, or lost in transition. It didn't sit right. The next morning, Leo, because now they knew his name, sat quietly at the station, picking at a granola bar. Rex was curled up beside him. Daniel sat across the table, not with questions, but with presence. "We found your name," Daniel said softly. "Leo Harper, right?" The boy stiffened. "You're not in trouble," Daniel continued. "I just want to understand." A long pause. Then finally, Leo nodded. Daniel smiled gently. "Who's Sammy?" Tears welled up in Leo's eyes. His voice broke as he whispered, "He's my best friend. He's little. We were at Greystone together. He got sick, real bad, coughing blood. But Mr. Brooks said not to call anyone. Said nobody cared." Daniel clenched his jaw, trying to stay calm. "So you ran to find help?" Leo nodded again. "I tried before, but I was scared. Brooks said if we left, he'd make sure we were never found, that nobody would believe us. But I couldn't let Sammy die in that place." "How long has he been alone?" Daniel asked, barely breathing. Leo wiped his nose. 2 days, maybe 3. He's in the basement. He hides in the old laundry room. There's a hole behind the dryer. I told him to wait there. I promised I'd come back. And then he broke. Daniel stepped outside, his hand shaking. This wasn't just a case anymore. It was something rotten that had festered too long in silence. He called his captain, asked for backup. The answer came cold. No warrant, no probable cause. We can't just storm an abandoned building on a kid's word. But Daniel wasn't just any cop. He was a man with instincts and a partner with better ones. That night he geared up, vest, flashlight, and Rex. Leo begged to come, but Daniel made him promise to stay put. "I'm coming back," Daniel said, kneeling beside him. With Sammy, it was after midnight when they reached Greystone. The building loomed like a haunted memory. Windows boarded, snow piled high against the sides, dead silence all around. But Rex growled low. His hackles were up. He sensed it too. Something was wrong here. They entered through a side door half off its hinges. The air inside was stale, thick with mildew and cold rot. Daniel moved slowly, flashlight sweeping across broken furniture, shattered glass, and peeling walls. Rex stayed close, ears alert. Downstairs, in the basement, was worse. The air turned colder, the darkness thicker. But then Rex froze, nose twitching. He barked once, sharply, and lunged toward the back. Daniel followed, heart pounding. They reached the laundry room. The machines were rusted, some tipped over. Rex scratched frantically at the wall behind one dryer. Then, movement. A pair of terrified eyes peeked out from behind. A great Sammy. He was small, maybe 5 or 6. Pale, sunken cheeks, wrapped in a filthy blanket, trembling like a leaf. When Daniel reached in, Sammy flinched, but then Rex stepped forward, slowly, gently. He licked Sammy's hand. The child sobbed. Daniel lifted him out carefully. Sammy was burning up, fevered and limp. He radioed in, calling for paramedics. This time, he didn't wait for permission. Back at the station, Leo ran to Sammy the second they walked in. The reunion broke everyone in the room. Leo cradled Sammy, whispering, "I told you I'd come back." Sammy weakly smiled. "You brought the dog." The paramedics took over, rushing Sammy to the hospital. He was dehydrated, malnourished, and sick, but alive. That should have been the end, but it wasn't, because what Sammy said next changed everything. Lying on the gurney, half asleep, he mumbled something to the nurse. He took pictures in the dark room downstairs, said it was our secret. Daniel heard it. Every muscle in his body tensed. He returned to Greystone the next day, with a warrant this time. They found the dark room, hidden behind a false wall, and what they uncovered inside shattered everything. Photos, videos, files, names, not just Leo and Sammy, dozens of boys, some missing, some never reported, a system designed to disappear them one by one. And Marvin Brooks, gone. He'd vanished overnight. No credit card trails, no cell signals. Just like the kids he used to care for. But Daniel wasn't giving up. He turned every stone. Interviews, surveillance, old staff members. Piece by piece the puzzle came together. Brooks had connections, deep ones, foster agencies, private donors, even legal protections. It was a web of silence. But Daniel had something stronger, truth. And Leo, the boy, once silent and scared, now stood tall. With Rex beside him, he testified. He shared everything. So did Sammy once he got stronger. Other boys came forward too, after seeing the news coverage. The dam had broken. The investigation exploded. The media swarmed. Politicians squirmed. Donations were pulled, and warrants flew out like wildfire. And then, a tip. A motel. An hour outside the city. Daniel and a task force swarmed it. Room 17. Inside, Marvin Brooks and 2 more boys. This time, no silence, no loopholes. He was arrested on the spot. The trial shook the state. But the real moment came when Leo took the stand. He looked Brooks in the eye and said, "You told us no one would believe us." But he did, and so did Rex. The courtroom fell silent, then erupted in applause. The next morning, the snow hadn't stopped, but something had changed. Officer Daniel couldn't sleep, not after everything Leo had said. His instincts screamed louder than protocol. And Rex? Rex was restless. He hadn't eaten, hadn't stopped pacing. His ears twitched at every sound like he was waiting for something, or someone. Daniel picked up the phone and made a decision, off the record, away from red tape. He didn't care if it cost him. He had a feeling in his gut, the kind you don't ignore. Rex stood by the door, tail stiff, eyes alert. He was ready. By the time they reached the abandoned shelter Leo had described, the sky was a pale blue, the sun still hiding behind thick gray clouds. The place looked lifeless from the outside. Windows were boarded up, paint peeled from the walls, and silence pressed against the air like a warning. But Daniel didn't hesitate. He pulled up his collar, unhooked Rex's leash, and whispered, "Go find him, buddy." Rex didn't bark. He sprinted ahead, nose down, tail steady. He led them around to a side door half buried in snow. Daniel braced his shoulder and shoved, once, twice, until it cracked open with a groan. A wave of stale air rolled out. Inside was cold, dark, and smelled of mold and dust. The building was crumbling from the inside, but there were signs, footprints, a broken piece of cloth, candy wrappers. Someone had been here, recently. Rex's pace quickened. He sniffed, paused, then darted down a narrow hallway lined with rusted